What's going on, y'all? Sorry about that. I went over again, as I always do with these MMA videos. I don't know what it is about me. I'm just so technically sound or fundamentally sound with my uh, analyzing of these fights. And it's just so much to look out for that I just can't get it all, in a short period of time. But I'm gonna work on that though. I am gonna work on that, and I'm gonna try to make these videos shorter. But this 15 minutes on YouTube, man, it's a beautiful thing, and for some reason, you know, my you know inner analyst in me will not let me shorten my knowledge and my thoughts on the fight, just for, a time span on YouTube. So, you know, I guess in some weird way, I'm taking advantage of the 15 minutes that YouTube has granted. So, thank you, YouTube. But anyway, this is the second part of my UFC 24. I'm sorry, my UFC Fight Night 24 predictions. We're talking about the main card, or I was talking about the main card, and I left off on the Garcia Sung Young fight. Now I'm going to talk about the Amir Sadala. Dang, I gotta get my words right, y'all. Um, Samir Ada, Amir Sadala. Man, I guess the cat got my tongue or something, man. Come on, cooperate. But anyway, I know that was like really, really corny. Don't don't judge me for that. Don't look at me any different. I don't know. But anyway, Amir Sadala is going to be facing DeMarcus Johnson. Amir Sadala, I'm about to say it again. Sadala, he was on the Ultimate Fighter with Rampage and Forrest. I think that was season 7 or season 8. I'm not sure. It might have been season 7. But he made a pretty good impression on there. He shocked. I guess he shocked the TV audience. I guess the worldwide TV audience when he armbarred CB Dalloway in their fight leading up to the finals. So yes, Amir Sadala, he's a solid prospect at 170. He may not have finished any fights lately, but the fights that he has gone the distance in, which is pretty much all of them, he's looked pretty darn impressive. So give the guy some credit. He's fairly new. He just got into the UFC, I think, about 2 years ago. I believe it was 2008, 2009, somewhere around that time. So, yeah, he's fairly new. So he's only been doing this a couple of years. But, for what he does bring to the table, it's a very good skill set. And that same thing could be said for DeMarcus Johnson, who is also a former Ultimate Fighter cast member. He was actually on the USA versus UK edition, which I did not see. For what reason, I don't know, but I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the fight. Amir Sadala, he's got very good kickboxing ability, very solid submissions as well. He's very technical, very calculating, very methodical, or however words you want to describe for patient. DeMarcus Johnson, on the other hand, he's a little bit far-fetched from that, if you want to call it that. He is the guy that likes to go out there and he likes to set the pace in the fight, and he just likes to go balls to the wall until either he knocks you out or get you to the ground and submit you. I think actually that might work for him in this fight, being that Sadala is not the type of guy to actually fight at a fast pace. So DeMarcus Johnson, in order for him to beat Sadala, he would probably need to push the action. He's a very solid striker himself, Johnson is. You know, he's got pretty decent punches and kicks and knees in the clinch. But as does Sadala. But I think Sadala is the better striker, if you want to know my personal opinion. And I actually think that Sadala is probably the better grappler than Johnson. The only edge I really give Johnson in this fight is maybe speed and maybe endurance. Because if you saw in the Dong Young Kim fight, Sadala got tired during the closing moments, or near the closing moments of that fight. He got very tired, and that's why Kim was able to take him down and control him so easily. So I think if Sadala comes in the fight in pretty good condition, he could possibly hang with Johnson there. But I think Johnson might be a little bit too quick for him. But I don't know. You know what? I want to pick Sadala in this fight because, like I said, he's the more technical striker, and you know he has pretty good slick submissions. But I just think that DeMarcus Johnson is going to come out like a ball of fire and just basically fight the fight at a very high, fast pace. And I think that's going to spell trouble for Sadala, and I think he might end up getting the fight to the ground and submitting Sadala. So I'm going to pick DeMarcus Johnson by third round submission. Although, if Samir Sadala can stuff the takedowns, and if he could keep the fight standing up, then Amir Sadala will win the fight, point blank. If Amir Sadala stuffs Johnson's takedowns and keeps the fight standing, he will win the decision. But I just think DeMarcus Johnson is going to be a little bit too quick. The pace is going to be a little too high that Johnson is going to set, and I think he'll eventually end up either catching Sadala with a punch and knocking him down, or he'll end up shooting for a takedown. But I'm going with Johnson in that fight. Next fight we have, this is a good one, the co-main event of the evening. And this is going to be a very hard fight for me to pick because, like I said, these are two of my favorite fighters in the welterweight division. Dan the Outlaw Hardy versus Anthony Rumble Johnson. Now, Dan Hardy, he kind of surprised me his last fight with Condit because I didn't see that KO coming. I don't think a lot of us did, but it happened, and hey, you know that's just how it is, man. You know, people get caught and they go down. Bottom line. I mean, of course, you know, you could have the hardest chin all you want to, but if somebody knows the point to hit you in that certain point on your chin, then you will go down. You know, and unfortunately, Hardy suffered that fate. Will that happen in this fight? I don't think so. Anthony Rumble Johnson, he hasn't fought for over a year and a half. He got injured after the fight with Josh Koscheck, which I did think he had a good chance of winning, being that he was the taller, stronger guy. But Koscheck outclassed him with the wrestling, and he was eventually able to wear him out and get the rear naked choke. Now, fortunately for Anthony Johnson, he will not have to worry about that with Dan Hardy, because Dan Hardy is not a grappler. Dan Hardy is a pure striker. Now, has he been working on some jiu-jitsu? Yes. Has he been working on some wrestling? Yes. But come on, let's be real. Dan Hardy he's going to look to keep this fight standing up because he's aware of Johnson's wrestling ability, and he knows if he goes out there and makes a mistake, he'll either get caught or taken down. But I kind of feel for my boy Anthony Johnson because he's had the knee injury, and he's been out, and he's gained a whole lot of weight since then. And as we've seen with Thiago Alves and others, when you're a natural big guy, you're trying to cut weight, it can become a factor in your fight, and it can end up costing you. And I think, as much as I don't want to say it, I think that's what's going to end up happening in this fight. I think the weight cut will affect my boy Johnson at some point, and I think Dan Hardy is going to capitalize on that. I do think Dan Hardy is going to be the quicker guy. I think he's the better striker in this fight. He's got more ways to win standing up, and I think he's going to end up catching Johnson somewhere in this fight. Johnson's best chance to win this fight is if he takes it to the ground and controls him with his wrestling. I know he doesn't want to do that, but he needs a win, and he needs one bad. So do what the heck you got to do. It doesn't matter how you win the fight. All that matters is that you win the fight. But I can see this fight starting out maybe in the first round. They're filling each other out. Anthony Johnson goes for a kick. Hardy counters it with a kick of his own. And after that, Dan Hardy starts turning up the pressure, and he starts lighting him up with a jab and possibly backing him up against the cage and just firing those combinations. And he ends up catching Anthony Johnson with one of them, and Anthony Johnson goes down, and Dan Hardy wins the fight by TKO in the second round. So I'm going with Dan Hardy. But like I said, Anthony Johnson, you my boy, and if you want to win this fight, take him down and control him and try to ground and pound him. Bottom line. But I think his ego's going to get the best of him. He's going to worry about knocking Dan Hardy out. And Dan Hardy's going to end up capitalizing on that mistake. And he's going to end up catching Johnson. I just see it happening for some reason. Either it's going to be a setup from a leg kick or something else crazy. But anyway, that's how I see that fight going down. And last but not least, the main event of the evening. Phil Davis, Mr. Wonderful, against Little Nog, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. This fight, I'll say for Phil Davis, is going to be a turning point fight, because this is going to really see how good this guy really is, and if he can really hang with one of the best fighters in the world at light heavyweight. And for Rogerio Nogueira, I think this is going to be a statement fight for him to see if he can really hang in the UFC ranks and if he's really ready for the top level competition in the world. Now, Rogerio Nogueira, he's coming off a loss to Ryan Bader, and as we know, Little Nog and wrestlers do not mix. He was winning, I'll say he was winning the third round of that fight with Bader, but Bader's overall takedowns and everything were just too good. And I think that's what Phil Davis is gonna look to exploit, is Rogerio's weakness to the takedowns. And I think that on the ground now, being that Nogueira is a BJJ black belt, I think that he's gonna be able to counter and reverse some of the some of the things that Phil Davis tries in the mount, because his mount is not that tight. It is very loose and open, and I think that might spell trouble for him at certain points in the fight. But overall, I do see Phil Davis winning this fight by decision. Sorry, Little Nog. If he can somehow stuff the takedowns and keep the fight standing, he can win the fight. But I see Phil Davis taking Little Nog down repeatedly, and it's either going to be by ground and pound or submission, Phil Davis.